All right.
Okay, well, welcome. This is the Orange County Mercedes-Benz Club of America section bringing you a webinar on PCarMarket. And so we're excited to bring this to you today. And there's a few reasons we wanted to have PCarMarket on. So we know that auctions and online auctions might be a different experience for some of our members. And so we wanted to introduce you to that today so that you can learn a little bit more about how that works. And then we think PCarMarket in particular does that extremely well and is a great partner to us locally as well as at the national level. So we have Will Sproule from PCarMarket on, who is our director of West Coast operations, and he's going to talk to you about PCarMarket, what they do, introduce you to online auctions, and looking forward to have a great discussion today. So, Will, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Chris. And thank you, everybody, for having me. I'm looking forward to this. And yeah, I'm just going to dive right into things. I have a presentation here for everyone. So a couple topics that, I wanted to touch on is, in general, what is PCarMarket? How do online auctions work? How do I submit my car? What are the sellers and buyers' responsibilities? The main keys to successful online auctions. And then, your auction ends. What do you do now once the car is sold? And then at the end, we'll open it up to a question and answer, and hopefully, we'll have some questions there. But in terms of I think how we discussed earlier how we'll do questions. If you think of a question while I'm doing the presentation, feel free to just write it down in the Teams chat. And if you send it to me at the end, I'll have access to all of that and I can go through those questions for you. All right. So what is PCarMarket? Well, we started about 4 years ago. We were Porsche focused in the very early, beginning of things. And then about a year after we founded the company, we started opening it up. There was enough demand for, other makes and models of cars. So we did all sorts of online auctions at that point. But as a whole, we're an online marketplace for enthusiast cars. And we help facilitate the sale of your car in an easy, transparent way using our online auction platform. All right. So I'm going to kind of just do the big picture. We'll go over the steps of how our auctions work, how you submit a car, and then I'll go into more detail. We'll kind of go into each one of these things and how it works. But for the first step is very easy. You submit your car online, or you could give our company a direct call. We have a number on our website. We will then go over the car, go over the submission. Then you pay the $99 listing fee, and then we can really start to get to work on your listing. From that point, we'll have you submit photos. We'll get a little more information from you we'll have you fill out a quick interview form. And then my team can start writing it and editing the photos and getting everything prepped for the auction. Then, once that listing is created, usually it takes us just a couple days once we have all the content. Then we'll send you a final draft for approval. And then once it's approved, then we can go live. And yeah, usually it's just a couple days, about 2 to 3 days once we have all that content from. In just a minute of have sell a car button. If you hit that, then that will take you to the next step. You have to create a username. Then you'll submit the auction. It'll ask for a couple details. And then the final step is you'll just wait for one of my specialists to reach out. They'll give you a call, usually within about a day. We'll reach out to you and we'll get you on the phone and we'll get some more info from you. but let me just pull this up for you guys. I believe I need to switch all right. Can you guys see my the web page here? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
All right. So this is our landing page on PCarMarket. What I'll have you do to submit a car is you just click on this button here. That will bring you to the second page where you just have to create an account. All you need is an email address and you don't even need a phone number, just an email address, first, last name, create a password, super easy. And then that will bring you to the second page, which will be, gathering a little more information about the car. And this is just real high level details. You're not going to, write anything about maintenance history or how long you've owned it. Just color, VIN if you have it. If not, that's no problem. We'll reach out later and go over that with you. And then once you're done there, we'll have you upload a few photos, 5 to 10. It doesn't have to be 100 photos for the initial assessment of the car. We just want to get an idea of the overall quality of the car, the condition, if it has any major defects or anything like that. So just a couple photos, and then you'll go ahead and submit the vehicle there. All right, dive back here. All right, so once the car is all submitted, then again, we'll reach out to you. We'll grab some more information, and then my team will kind of hit the ground running on getting the car live as soon as possible. Next, I'm going to quickly touch on the buyer experience, because that is also a very important aspect of an online auction. And then we'll dive into kind of more details on what the seller will experience as well. So as the buyer, it's very, very also a very important part of the auction. You're going to have 7 days. All of our auctions are 7 days long. They run, if it starts on a Monday, it'll end on a Monday. They run through the weekend, but we don't end and we don't start any auctions over the weekend. And the main reason for that is we just got much more traction during the week. And our analytics showed that over the weekends, it seemed like people were doing weekend stuff. So they weren't necessarily glued to their computer screen looking to buy cars. So all of our auctions end Monday through Friday. So during those 7 days, you have an opportunity to really do your due diligence on the car. You can ask the the seller, pertinent questions, interact with them as much as you can. It's a really great opportunity, and you can write comments on on the listing. But just to kind of get a better sense for, who the seller is, are they an enthusiast? Are they a collector? Is it, somebody that has owned the car for 20 years? Or if they only owned it for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. So those are all, really important questions to ask during the 7-day auction, to gives you, enough information to make a really informed bid at the end. And then, once you bid on the car, if you're lucky enough to be the highest bidder, then the bids are up and over that reserve price that we had set for the car, then it's a contractual sale. So you won the car. You'll be charged, the buyer's fee is just a 5% fee on top of whatever the final winning bid is for the auction for that car. And that'll be charged immediately after the auction. So, just be prepared to see that on your credit card. And then we'll connect you with the seller, and you guys will exchange, information and figure out payment and everything. So that's predominantly, obviously, the buyer experience. The seller experience is the other side of the coin here. And I'm going to get into that now. So as I mentioned before, you're going to submit the car either on our website, or you can give us a call. We have our number listed on the website, and speak with one of my specialists. They'll grab all the information. Then once the reserve is agreed upon, you'll pay the listing fee, and then we'll email you instructions for next steps. And this is a really important part of the auction is getting the right content. Content is really everything when it comes to auctions, and it's important to it'll be a little bit of work to get the right photos, but we'll help you with that. We'll coach you through getting the right content and everything. So we make it really easy. So once the car is all submitted, then we'll send you a submission email, and that will confirm your reserve price that you discussed with my team, and then get you ready for next steps. And next steps will be uploading content to a link that we'll provide in that email, and then filling out an interview form for just giving my team of writers just more information about the car. And it's really important to be as detailed as you can here. If you have a lot of information about the car, make sure it's all there. If you want something to be in the listing, make sure that you make sure it's filled out in that initial interview form. And then photos. A lot of the time our bidders are buying these cars sight unseen. So it's really important to get some good photos, and it doesn't necessarily need to be like a professional photo shoot, even though we do find that helps. But with smartphone technology these days, using an iPhone or an Android with a good camera, we can get a similar result, and then we'll edit all those photos. But we're looking to get anywhere between 50 and 100 photos is really the average. 50 would be the minimum that we like. And then, anything over 100 would be fantastic. And, I know that sounds like a lot of photos, but with our photo guide, it's really quick. It takes about 15 minutes to get all the shots that you need. And it's really important to show, the good and the bad with the car. You want to get some close-ups on those imperfections. If it has some rock chips, take a quick photo of that as well. And what that does is that, shows the potential buyers that, you're not trying to hide anything. It's a transparent sale. The car is an honest car. And that'll really translate into getting more and higher bids, because people are going to be like, okay, they really, went over the car with a fine-tooth comb, and they pointed out any imperfections. So now they can make, an informed decision on that car. So yeah, once we have all that info, once we have those great photos that you took, once we have the interview form filled out, then my team will start working on that right away. And then we'll send you a listing draft for final approval for the car to go live. And once you do get that listing draft, it'll be sent via email. Then you can just check a box there, and then that'll notify my team that you've approved the listing. This doesn't always, equate to the car going live right away. We're very strategic on how we list cars, and we want to make sure that we're not putting any competing cars up at the same time. So if a car that's very similar spec to yours and similar year in mileage, we might postpone your auction a day or two, have that car finish up first, and then we'll get yours live as soon as possible. So don't be surprised if the car doesn't go live right away. We haven't forgotten about you. We're just making sure that it's going to be, getting the most eyeballs as possible. All right. So now your auction is live. What now? What do you do? So, once you've approved that listing, we'll let you know once it is actually live. I'll just, one of my team members will ping you and say, hey, John, auction is now live, and we'll have you introduce yourself in the comment section. And this is a really important part. A lot of our sellers do it, and I think the end result is just that much better. And what I like to tell people is, selling a car on an online auction, it's a different experience than a normal classified, for many reasons. But you are 50% of that sale. So 50% of the auction is the presentation, it's the photos, it's the write-up. Then the other 50% is you, the seller. And it's important for you to introduce yourself at the beginning. Just say, hi, my name is Will. I've owned this car for 10 years. I've been a part of the Mercedes-Benz Club of America for the last 5 years. And, let me know if you have any questions. And what that does is it just, opens it up to potential bidders. They feel more comfortable interacting with you. They know you're there. They know that, if they have any questions that they can ask you. So being engaged is really, really important. Another thing is to keep your reserve price a secret. So that, that might sound obvious, but, bidders they might ask, they might direct message you, what's your reserve price? This is my budget. What do you think? Just let them know that, that's kind of against the rules. And you really like to keep it a secret, and it's only to benefit the car. Because a lot of the time, obviously, we want to exceed that reserve price. And if people then know what that number is, they might not end up bidding. So that's important to keep that a secret. And last part of this is that most bids, they happen in the last few minutes, sometimes, of the auction. So bids they're going to come in throughout the week. People might place a bid here and there. It's not necessarily going to be the number you're looking for, but don't worry. All the action really happens in the last 15 minutes. People just like to wait. So people will place a bid that obviously won't buy the car on a Monday, and then they might win the car the following Monday after the auction's all done. So, don't worry if it's not the number you're looking to get. There's still a lot more to come with the auction. All right. So, keys to a successful auction. What our founder likes to say is that, all we have are pictures and words. And that is very true, especially in an online auction. Because a lot of the time, people aren't necessarily going to have time, or the car isn't local to them. They're not going to be able to see it. So it's just really, really important to get those photos. My team, again, is going to coach you through all that, getting the right content, maybe a startup video, or even a driving video if possible. All of that stuff really, really helps, with the end result and the final number of your auction. And I can't stress this enough. Be responsive. Have a presence during the auction. You don't need to be glued to the screen for the 7 days. All we ask is that you check in once or twice a day, see if there are any new questions that people have asked, and just get those answered as quickly as possible. And be accommodating. If somebody is as interested in the car that they want to schedule a PPI, and your schedule permits that, we ask that you be as accommodating as you can. Because obviously that bidder is very serious about the car if they do want to get a pre-purchase inspection done, and it's just important to be available for that. All right, so I'm going to show you guys a couple examples of some really great auctions that we had. All right, so this first one here is a 91 500 SL AMG 6.0. Really, really nice car. This car was in Switzerland. We do have an international audience, so we do get lots of cars from Europe. We get some from Dubai and Canada. So it is a large audience that's going to see and interact with you on the website. But as you can see, you know, really nice photos, some nice beauty shots. You know, they took pictures at a couple different locations. That always nice to see a car, you know, in natural light, and then in you know, under either fluorescent lights or just different lighting in general. But yeah, took great detail shots. They had close-ups of any imperfections that the car might have, close-ups on the wheels. See, they got good interior shots as well. Big tip is, if you are taking interior pictures, close the passenger door if you're taking pictures of the driver's side, and vice versa. It just looks so much better. You'll notice if you do look at another car and the passenger door is open, it just looks incomplete. You know, light is kind of bouncing off the interior in weird ways, so it just looks much neater this way. And then, yeah, a couple more detail shots, and yeah, engine bay, trunk, close-ups, again, more detail. So this was a really good photo shoot. I would say, you know, the only critique would be is, you know, if they did have access to a lift, especially for an older car, it's always nice to see the underside, just to kind of get a better idea for rust and corrosion, anything like that. So that would be, you know, the only addition I would recommend for this auction. And they also did a, you know, cold start video and a walk around, which really helps. Just gives bidders more confidence in the car. And then, as you can see here, a really engaged seller. So they were asked some questions. They answered, you know, completely. And that was throughout the entire week. Questions were coming through. And, you know, as I mentioned before, you know, bids are going to be placed. This one for, you know, $1,100. It's obviously not going to buy the car. But then it started to pick up 25, 26. And then you can see this was probably the last 15 minutes or so. And it just starts jumping. It starts at 30, 55, 65, and then just goes up from there. And it was a final bid price of $95,000, which was really strong money for that car. We were very excited. The seller was very excited, and the new owner was also ecstatic that he won. Another great auction that I wanted to go over is this 6,000 mile C63 AMG. This one just finished a couple days ago, and, you know, similar presentation, lots of good photos, as you can see here, good interior shots. They also shot pictures, or will include a Carfax, but they had, you know, extra manuals and keys. Make sure all those little detail stuff is really important to include in the content that you provide my team. And then, so this was an interesting car, and I wanted to touch on this. So we have a couple ways that an auction can end, and I'll touch more on this later. But, you know, if the hidden reserve is met, then, you know, the car will sell just like this car did. Reserve was, you know, say 90,000. It was bid up over that number, then it's sold directly at auction. This car, on the other hand, so what happened with this car is it got bid up to about 61,000 during the actual auction. So what we'll do is, if we come short of the reserve price on any given auction, we'll pause the end of the auction and we'll reach out to the highest bidders. So we'll give them a call. You know, we'll let them know, you know, hey, do you have any more flexibility? You know, we're pretty close. You know, we'll negotiate on your behalf, and we'll try to get them to come up to or over your reserve price. Usually, if it's pretty close, we're able to get a deal together. But if it's just too far off, then what we'll do is we'll place the car in our deal tank. And what our deal tank is just a more traditional classified. And we'll convert auctions that didn't sell, that didn't meet reserve at auction. We'll convert those into classified ads in our deal tank section. And sometimes those cars sell within a couple hours. Sometimes it's a couple days, sometimes it's a couple weeks. But people are going to still have access to the car. They can still, submit offers to you, the seller, and then you'll be able to determine if you want to accept that offer, decline it, or you can also counter offer. And so in the case of this car, it got bid up to about 61,000, and that ended. So the car did not sell. It got placed into our deal tank. And then probably the next day, an offer of 70,000 was submitted to the deal tank, and then the owner of the car accepted that offer. So that just kind of, proves the success of our deal tank. The car doesn't just disappear after the auction. It really has a second chance of selling, and we'll do everything we can in order to get it sold for you. All right. So let's jump back here. All right, so I kind of briefly touched on that. But so, one of three things can happen after the auction. If the secret reserve is met, then the car will sell. It happens pretty much instantaneously. A little green box will pop up at the end of the auction, and that will be the winning bid there. Another thing that can happen is it doesn't meet reserve. As I mentioned, we'll reach out to the highest bidders. We'll try to get them to come up to or over your reserve price. And then the third option is the deal tank. And it can be in deal tank pretty much until the car sells, or you decide you want to take it off the market. So it's a great feature to have, just a little, second chance of selling the car. All right, that concludes it. Just want to open it up now to any questions that you guys might have.
John Pally here.
Hey, John.
Yeah, thank you, Will. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
One thing that attracted me to this call was one, the participation by Mercedes Club, but also going to your site. It talks about how you focus exclusively on enthusiast cars, which really interested me. And then I go to your website, and the first car that pops up is a Ford F-150. And I'm trying to understand what your real focus is.
Yeah, that is a great question. So our main focus is
right there. There's your 150.
Yeah.
To me, that's not an enthusiast car, but to others, I'm sure it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, for the most part, our main focus is, collector and enthusiast cars. We work with a lot of people, a lot of collectors, and a lot of enthusiasts. And a lot of the times they're repeat customers. And, we want to do right by them. We obviously have the platform that can sell these cars. We sell $1 million Porsches, and we can sell, Ford F-150 that's 20 years old. But as you can see, for the most part, for these types of cars, they're all no reserve auctions, which means the car is just going to sell for the highest bid. So, for the most part, that was a, F-150, but then we have this fantastic Lamborghini tractor, which is Ferraris, more Porsches. So, sometimes we get some odd ducklings in there. But what you'll notice is they're going to be a no reserve auction.
All right. So if I may continue, what I wanted to understand is what your real market differentiation is. I'm familiar with like Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer, and now I'm being exposed to PCarMarket. And I did get a feel for your value add that you were talking about, how you get engaged with the buyer and seller and all that. That's great to know. What do you think your greatest differentiation is? Why would I list with you versus another?
Yeah, another great question. I think that, the biggest difference, every auction company, these days has kind of their own niche. I mean, obviously Bring a Trailer is, the elephant in the room. They're the biggest. They were, first, and they've been around the longest. But what we found is that, we might be a little bit smaller than Bring a Trailer, but we're able to kind of, learn from what doesn't work. And then we really perfected that. And what I mean by that is, the biggest complaints that we were seeing from Bring a Trailer was the long wait times, and the fact that nobody could ever talk to anybody. It was all through email, and they just couldn't, get anybody on the phone. So
Exactly. That's what I wanted to hear, by the way.
Yeah, that's what we lead with. I give every car that I'm listing, they have my number. If they have a question, or if they forget to add a picture of an invoice, they can just directly contact me, and then I'll let my team know, hey, John needs to add this invoice. Can we get it added? And we'll add it very quickly. So it's a smoother process. We're with you from the start to finish, in terms of the sale of the car.
Good to know. So, assuming I do everything according to script, the 100 pictures and this and that and so on, and you have maybe, I don't know the number, say 400 vehicles online or in auction at any point in time, how do I get airtime? How do I get play on my vehicle?
Yes, yeah, great question. So we're very strategic, in which cars go live and at what time, just for that reason. And Bring a Trailer, they have probably 20 of each car live all at the same time. We like to cherry pick a little bit more. So, if you have a really nice, Mercedes-Benz CLK, then we're not going to list a similar car to that within the same week. So that's why, sometimes we delay auctions. Like, you might approve the listing, but the car might not go live for a couple of days. And that's why we really want to curate the auction and make sure that we're not pulling eyeballs away from one car and putting them on another car. And because we're a little bit smaller, we're able to do that. And if you compare comp to comp, we're very competitive with both Bring a Trailer and Cars and Bids.
I don't see anybody else raising their hand. So may I ask one other question?
Absolutely.
That'll be it. So do you have a list of photographers that you would recommend, say in Denver or Scottsdale or your other metro areas?
Yeah. So we've partnered with a great company called Snapper, and their kind of business model is they have photographers nationwide. They're everywhere. Every city pretty much is covered, every main city. And so what we can do is, if say you're like, oh yeah, I want to get my car shot, we'll connect with Snapper, and then we can send a photographer out to wherever the car is located, and they can shoot it. And it's very quick. It's usually within a day or two. We're able to get a photographer out to you.
In fact, I did use them on another car I sold. Just my own feeling is, I think it's kind of luck of the draw. I think the photographer that was assigned, one of them, we had an appointment, and then the last minute he couldn't make it, so another one was sent.
Okay.
And so it wasn't there's no inconvenience. It was, maybe one photographer is better than another, particularly at cars versus boats. So I was just wondering if you vet the photographers at all.
Yeah, so we talk to most of the ones that we use before they go and shoot the car, because we want to kind of coach them on, of course, they're professionals and they can take great pictures, but we just want to make sure they get all the content that we're looking for. and really like the close-up shots, and they're all really good at taking those beauty shots. But we want to make sure that we get all the details on the car. So we'll have a conversation, before we send them out, and just make sure that we're all on the same page. Another note is, my office is in Torrance, California. I have my own network of photographers in California. So sometimes if Snapper is more convenient, I use Snapper. Other times, I have a group of photographers that I've used, for many years now, and that are really trusted and are willing to drive a bit more to go to different locations for me. So that's also nice to have here in California. And I know they also have that back east where we're headquartered in Long Island. They have kind of a group of more seasoned photographers that we use.
Yep. All for me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
This is Steve Ross. I have 5 questions, and then I have a comment. The first question I have, do you have an affiliation with the Mercedes-Benz Club of America? I'm asking because I saw that you had our logo on your presentation.
Yeah. I didn't personally, work with you guys for any advertising, but I know back east, they've worked with you for a couple years now, I think, for some advertising as well. So yeah, we do have an affiliation with Mercedes-Benz Club of America.
Okay. John Pauly touched on at the age of cars. Do you list pre-war cars, post-war cars, or do you list anything going? Like, what if I wanted to list a 34 Packard V12 Dietrich?
Yeah, we're always open to listing other cars. I think
Okay,
pretty sure we've had a couple pre-war stuff on there, and I think they've done very well. So yeah, we're open to it.
yes. Is there a seller fee in addition to the buyer's fee?
Yes. So the sellers just pay a listing fee, and that's just $99.
And they don't pay anything when it's sold.
Correct. Yeah, it's just the 99. That's all they pay.
So you're working on a $99 and a 5% commission.
Yeah. So we're very motivated to work hard for you, get the car sold.
Well, that is a something that would interest me right off the bat. I'm sure you're familiar with R&M and Gooding and Quail, and it's a lot more than that.
Yeah.
Do you recommend blanking out the license plate on the listing?
We leave that up to the seller. For my cars, I don't. You can really only gather so much information from that. It's public anyways, you're driving around. So I usually don't. But if a seller requests it, then I'll have my photo editor just blur it out, and that's no problem.
The other comment I had was, I've never heard of this company. And from your presentation, I'm surprised I haven't. You're obviously well known if you're international. Do you how do you advertise or let it be known that you're out there?
Yeah, so a lot of our advertising is very organic. We do advertising with clubs. We do advertising with the Porsche Club, Mercedes-Benz, some BMW clubs as well. But how the cars are advertised it's very organic. It's pulled from our user base, which is about 150 to 200,000 active users.
Okay.
And the cars are, strategically advertised to our base every day. If you're a user of ours, you're going to get our daily email that will alert you to new auctions of cars every day. And then all of the social media, we do a lot with social media, Facebook, Instagram, and even a little bit of LinkedIn. And that stuff just kind of, builds and builds and builds. And then other people will reshare the cars that we've listed. So it just happens very naturally, and it's a very organic process of advertising.
Do you advertise in the Mercedes-Benz Club of America's Nashville magazine?
I'm not sure if we do. I don't think
I've
so.
seen it.
Oh,
Yeah.
you have?
Well,
Okay.
I saw it in the mag, and I also saw it, Steve, in the National Club email recently, the one that comes out and it shows events from all the different sections. I noticed at the very bottom of that email recently was a PCarMarket ad. So I've seen you in a couple places with National.
That's really great. I'm glad to hear that, and I apologize profusely for not seeing it in the magazine.
No, no worries. No worries. I'm glad you saw it though.
I'm very impressed with the way you're doing this, and what I like about it, as opposed to Bring a Trailer and these others, is the work that you put into the interaction between the buyer and seller. Whereas with Bring a Trailer, it's not that easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what we, when we started out 4 years ago, that's what we were seeing as well. I mean, we were all car guys, and we all sold cars on Bring a Trailer, and we all had a very similar experience. And it was, that it was a long wait time. It was, not being able to talk to anybody ever. It was just like a black hole of emails. And it was just it turned into a really frustrating process. And if
Yes.
God forbid something happened, if there was a hiccup, it was just really hard to get that resolved in an easy way. So we wanted to do it a little differently. And that's why we kind of, built our whole process around just more interaction, and, interacting with me, interacting with my specialist team back East. And it seems to be, a much more enjoyable process that way.
Well, I belong to several car clubs, and I have a member that's trying to sell a very pristine 1941 Packard. Do you think that would be something to head your way?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, if you send him a link, he can, submit the car, as I explained, and then one of my specialists will reach out to him and just talk him through the process, get some more details about the car, and see if it would be a good fit.
I'll make a pitch to him to do that. But again, what you're collecting to do this, it seems to me like it's extremely reasonable. Does anybody else think that's pretty reasonable at 5% and $99?
Close to free.
It's very competitive.
Thank you. I'm done.
Yeah, I am too. Thank you, guys. I'm going to bail. Appreciate the time, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you, John.
Okay, John.
I had a couple questions. So I actually bought a car on Bring a Trailer and had the seller refuse to sell me the car because he didn't think it went for enough money. It was no reserve. And in the end, I ended up getting the car, but it was kind of a frightening couple hours while he made his decision and called me back. And then I had to drive 6 hours to go get it, which obviously I was worried the car wouldn't be available. Anyway, the point is, if that happens on your site, if it ever were to happen, are there any kind of protections for the buyers or sellers, or you know what I mean, that type of stuff, or is it pretty much you would just refund their money and they walk away carless?
Yeah, so that does happen. We have some kind of fail safes in place to hopefully prevent that from happening. But if a buyer or a seller decides that they didn't get enough money for the car and they back out, then they'll be charged the 5% fee. That's kind of our first thing that we'll try to do. If that's not enough to kind of push them in the right direction, we'll get more involved. We'll get them on the phone. We'll try to resolve it as best we can on our end. Unfortunately, sometimes they don't go for it, and that just is what it is. But they will be charged the 5% fee. So usually that's enough to kind of honest and like, okay, all right, I'll sell it. I
don't think Bring a Trailer does that, because this guy, I told him, I said, they're never going to let you post again. He had about 20 or 30 cars he was going to start liquidating, I think, like an estate, and He said,
Yeah.
I don't care. There's other sites, you know. Oh God.
Oh
So
yeah. Well, hopefully he doesn't come to our site.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Eh,
But
yeah.
that's the other thing that we'll do is if there is something like that, and they just refuse to sell the car, we'll charge them that 5% and we'll ban their account. So we just don't, we kind of have a no nonsense policy about that stuff. You kind of, you know what you're getting into when you're selling a car. And of course we want it to hit that number, but if it's a no reserve, then it sells for what it sells for, and you got to just be, ready to accept it.
Hey, Kevin,
Yes,
that's not the car parked in your driveway, is it?
it is. Yeah, yeah.
But what'd you pick up?
It was a 1950 Chrysler, and it was running and somewhat driving, no brakes, but beyond that, I mean, it could move on its own power. And I think I got it for like 1,600. So I could see where he, didn't want to sell it, but at the same time, I was pretty excited because that was my. And to your point about the bidding, I was the winning $100 bid for 6 of the 7 days, and then on that 7th day, it just shot up. But
Right, yeah.
and that's a good segue. One of my other questions was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'll bring a trailer. Maybe it's Cars and Bids, where if you put in bids in the last 10 minutes, it extends the auction. Do you do that as well?
Yes, yeah, good question. So how it works is, all the auctions are 7 days long. And then if a bid is placed in the last 2 minutes of the last 2 minutes of the auction, then it'll get reset another 2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So, everybody that's watching, everybody that's bidding on the car will see that. And then hopefully that gives everybody an equal opportunity to bid on the car, and you get a little bit more money for the car that way. I know that, a big thing with like eBay was, you could kind of, have these sniper bids, set up and that was a little unfair. And so, that kind of solves that problem. And so, sometimes auctions will get extended, like 30-40 minutes sometimes, because people are just, bidding, and the increment has to be $250. That's the minimum. But it'll just kind of inch up and inch up and inch up and go from there. So it's fun to watch.
And the last question I had was, I think, similar to the question that Chris typed in, which let me see here. It was kind of around an inspection service. You mentioned you've partnered with the photography service. Have you partnered with anybody on inspections, or do you recommend?
Yeah, we don't have we haven't partnered with anybody on inspections. What we do, have people do is, if they're really interested in the car, then we'll have them schedule their own, independent PPI inspection during the 7-day auction. But it has to be during that 7-day auction. The auction isn't, contingent on the PPI if it's afterwards. So it's really important to kind of get your ducks in a row, and get that inspection done, as soon as you can, get it scheduled. But that's a great question. It could be something in the future that we might be able to offer for larger cities. I think that would be a great tool to have. But unlike Snapper, there's a little more complicated. A lot more equipment. If you're calling up a mobile PPI service, which I do know those exist, but that could be something good to add.
Sort of just an idea. I'm a field inspector for a car insurance company. I know we use a lot of IAs, independent appraisers, which, I mean, they're not geared toward these types of cars specifically, but they're a notch above just a photographer. If that might be something that I'm sure you have thought about it, but if you haven't, as an independent appraiser agencies, they're all over the place.
Yeah, that is a really good idea. And certainly, yeah, sometimes you just kind of, you want somebody to just get eyeballs on the car, and somebody that you can trust. They don't necessarily have to do get the car up on a lift or anything, and full PPI, but just somebody you can trust that can get eyeballs to just kind of give you a better sense for the car. And that might be something that we would implement in the future too.
Cool. That was
Hey,
it.
the only question I had that hasn't already been asked is any perspective on the reserve versus no reserve strategy. I know there's lots of different schools of thought on this, but I noticed it looks like, you have both on your site. So any thoughts around when reserve versus no reserve makes the most sense?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, the no reserve versus reserve predicament. Usually we have if a car is heavily modified, if it's just hard to pin down a value on a car, and oftentimes a heavily modified car, obviously the person probably has a lot of money into it, but that doesn't necessarily translate into what the car is worth. The market gets to have an opinion about that. But what we see, because we've sold so many cars over the years, we have all this data that we pull from. And what we find is that no reserve cars, comp for comp, do better. And the reason for that is there's just that much more excitement around the car. What we find is that it gets 20% more views and 20% more bids. And oftentimes that translates into a higher final sale price. And we're able to compare very similar cars, one with no reserve versus one with reserve, and that's often the results that we see. I know it's certainly a bigger risk for the seller, because the car will sell for whatever the highest bid is. But what we'll do is we want you to be happy with the number. We don't want you to be upset if the car doesn't reach the number that you were hoping that it would reach. So what we'll do is we'll give you a range of say it's a $50,000 car, and we're like, okay, we really think it would benefit from a no reserve. We think it's going to land anywhere between 47 to like 53. So from what we're seeing in the market. So we'll kind of prep you, and if you're uncomfortable accepting that lower end value, then maybe the no reserve auction just isn't for you. So we talk to our sellers about that on the phone, and make sure they're comfortable with it, and even with that lower reserve or lower number on the range, and so moving forward that they're happy in the end, and that's really what we want. We don't want people to be upset that the car didn't sell for the number they were hoping. So we'll make sure to prep you for all that.
This is
Thanks,
Steve.
Paul.
I have one more quick question.
Yeah.
What kind of data do you have on the vintage pre-war cars selling?
Well, we have I'm still sharing my screen, right? So we have a great tool on our website. If you guys can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if you have a login, you'll just have to create a username. Then you'll head to our results page, and that will be under auctions, and then you just hit results. And then, so these are all the auctions. This is what ended, today and this week. And then you can get a little more specific. I don't know if we have a pre-war, I don't know if we have we don't have like a pre-war section, so I wouldn't know.
You got a year range though, right?
You have a year range, yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. All right, so it looks like we don't have too much data on that.
I see.
Mostly hot rods. We have another hot rod that's coming live this week.
I see a Rolls Royce there.
Yeah, Rolls Royce. Looks like it got bid up to 35,000. That one did not sell. But yeah, that's not to say that a different car wouldn't do better. It really just depends on the car, and I think those were older listings. So I think we have a pretty large audience for this is really specific, but for those old style gas pumps, the really big ones, they're like 15 feet tall. We sell quite a few of those, so I feel like those people probably intersect a lot with kind of the pre-war stuff as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Okay, well, we're just at the hour mark, and if we don't have any other questions, I think we can wrap it up. But I think I speak for everybody that this was great insights, and look forward to getting the video out to those that couldn't attend in person, and look forward to doing some more business together, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. I was very excited to do this, and if you do think it would be something beneficial to do again, I'm totally for it. And yeah, just continue to build the Mercedes brand on PCarMarket.
Outstanding presentation. I
Well,
appreciate
thank
it.
you. Thank you. Thank you very